Imagine opening your mailbox to find a simple sheet of paper with a figure on it. $170,000. Sounds like a fantasy, right? But according to recent surveys, that is the ballpark figure many American homeowners have built up in equity on their homes. Now, the bigger question is this: how on earth can you turn those locked up funds into the powerful engine that drives your journey to wealth? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you will not only see how much equity the typical American holds, but also learn the smartest ways to tap into it without putting your financial future at risk. Let us set the scene. You, an average American, have been living in your comfortable suburban home for the last few years. You have diligently paid down your mortgage, and the housing market in your area has been kind to you. Then you see it, a news headline declaring that typical American homeowners now hold well above $150,000 in equity. You check your own balance and discover that your numbers align with these reports. It is like stumbling upon a buried treasure chest in your backyard. Yet, questions start swirling in your mind. Is it wise to unlock all that equity, or should you let it sit quietly and keep building over time? The average American household carries a significant load of debt, often credit cards, personal loans, or even medical bills. Could this equity help pay down those high-interest debts? Or, on the flip side, might it be a springboard for building wealth through investments or a business launch? Over the next few minutes, we are going to demystify this topic. We will start by breaking down exactly how much equity the average American really holds, why that matters, and, most importantly, how tapping into it might be your golden ticket to financial freedom. But I have to warn you, there is a fine line between a brilliant strategy and a risky gamble. You'll want to stick around until the end. The things we'll go over in this video is life-changing strategies that have turned many normal people into wealthy successes. You wake up to the sound of your alarm, scroll through some social media feeds, and see a post about skyrocketing home prices across the country. You recall that the national median home price hovers around $400,000, meaning plenty of homeowners have properties valued even higher. Meanwhile, the average mortgage balance in America sits near $230,000 to $250,000, depending on the region and interest rates. Put these figures together, and that typically leaves well over $150,000 in equity for many households, especially those who have owned their homes for a while. However, let us get more specific. Data collected from leading real estate sources suggests that close to half of American homeowners have at least 50% equity in their homes. In many cases, that means if your home is worth $400,000, the amount you owe might be $200,000 or less, leaving you a neat $200,000 cushion. That is the kind of money that can alter your life trajectory if used the right way. Picture Linda, who checked her latest statement and found she had built up $180,000 in her ranch-style home in Texas. She was thrilled, but also overwhelmed. What if she refinanced and invested in a second property, or paid off her student loans, or used some of it to start a side hustle she had been dreaming about for years? Linda realized she had a chance to make a big move, but was not sure which path led to the best outcome. Keep Linda's story in mind as we progress, because you might relate to her situation. There is a crossroads of opportunity here. In the next section, we will explore how to tell if you are truly ready to tap your equity or if you need to wait a bit longer. Before we talk about ways to leverage your equity, you have to ask yourself, are you in a stable enough position to add more debt obligations to your plate? Tapping equity, whether through a refinance, a home equity loan, or a home equity line of credit, often called a HELOC, means you are borrowing money against the property you live in. That is a serious decision. Let us say you are like Mark, who works a 9-to-5 job and has 2 kids. He knows the average American has around $38,000 in personal debt, which may include everything from credit cards to car loans. If he taps his equity to invest and something goes wrong, like a job layoff or a sudden medical emergency, he might struggle to keep up with the new payments, on top of his existing obligations. The result might be losing the home he worked so hard to acquire. So, how do you assess if you are ready? First, examine your emergency fund. Most financial advisors recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up. If you are on shaky ground with little to no cash cushion, consider pausing until you strengthen your emergency fund. Second, evaluate the stability of your income. If you are in a volatile industry or fear layoffs, it may be wiser to hold off for now. Third, lay out your other debts. Some Americans juggle student loans, car payments, and credit card balances. Would tapping your equity create a better path to consolidating or paying off that high-interest debt, or would it pile on too much risk? Taking a hard look at your situation is crucial. Too many homeowners jump into refinancing or home equity loans without a solid plan, only to regret it later. If your foundation is secure, then you might be ready to move on. Next, we will discover 3 main strategies for how to use that equity to build wealth without lighting your finances on fire. One of the biggest drains on the average American wallet is high-interest debt. Whether it is a collection of credit card balances with annual percentage rates hovering in the teens or personal loans with double-digit interest, these obligations can sap your monthly cash flow. Tapping home equity to pay down these debts could offer a dramatic relief. The reason is simple. A home equity product might come with an interest rate of around 5 to 8%, depending on your credit score and market conditions. That is often significantly less than a credit card's 20% or a personal loan's 15%. By consolidating or wiping out these balances, you not only reduce your interest burden, but also free up monthly cash flow. Take Emma. She had racked up $40,000 in credit card debt over years of unexpected medical bills and everyday purchases. Between minimum payments and interest, it felt like a financial treadmill with no end in sight. However, she realized she had $150,000 in home equity. Emma tapped $30,000 of it at a fixed rate of 6%, used it to pay off the bulk of her high-interest balances, and suddenly found an extra $500 of monthly breathing room. She directed those savings toward an emergency fund and new investments, finally getting ahead rather than treading water. This approach is not entirely risk-free because you are exchanging unsecured debt for a loan secured by your home. Default on your payments, and the bank can foreclose. That is why you should only do this if you are confident you can handle the new monthly payment. However, if you are drowning in high-interest debt, turning equity into a debt-busting weapon can be a life-changer. Next up, taking on real estate investing to multiply your equity into something bigger. You have probably heard more than a few success stories of people building wealth through real estate. One approach is using your existing equity to fund the down payment on a rental property. Let us say you borrow $50,000 from your home's equity and use it as a down payment on a single-family rental in a growing market. You set rent at a rate that covers your mortgage, taxes, insurance, and some extra for maintenance. If all goes according to plan, you will have a tenant who pays your mortgage for you, effectively growing your net worth every time you collect rent. Meet Candace, who lived in a Midwestern suburb where home prices are moderate. She had $190,000 in equity in her primary residence. After exploring various markets, she purchased a duplex in a nearby city, using $60,000 as her down payment and renovation fund. Within a year, Candace was collecting enough rent, not just to cover the property's expenses, but also to net a few $100s a month in positive cash flow. Meanwhile, if the value of that property climbs over the next 5 to 10 years, she can refinance it, pull out more equity, and repeat the process. This is the classic BRR approach. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. However, real estate investing also introduces new responsibilities. You might have to deal with tenant issues, property repairs, or vacancies. If that is not your cup of tea, you could consider a property management company, but remember to factor those costs into your profit calculations. If you are able to withstand a learning curve, real estate can become your fast track to building wealth. Still intrigued but worried about the time commitment? Next, we will explore a more passive way to multiply those home equity dollars. Another popular method is to take some or all of your equity and invest it in the stock market. This can mean buying individual stocks, index funds, exchange-traded funds, or mutual funds. The advantage here is a relatively passive approach. Once you buy in, you do not have to manage tenants, worry about stocking a storefront, or oversee renovations. You simply track your portfolio and make occasional adjustments. However, the market can be unpredictable. Historically, the average annual return of the S&P 500 hovers around 7 to 8% after adjusting for inflation. That is a pretty good number over the long haul, but it does not come with guarantees. A market crash can wipe out a significant chunk of your portfolio if you are forced to sell at the wrong time. Also, if your mortgage and equity loans are variable rate, rising interest rates might push your monthly costs higher just as the market dips. That can be a double punch to your finances. Yet, let us meet Ryan, who decided to tap $40,000 of his equity and place it into a diversified set of index funds tracking both domestic and international stocks. Ryan had a well-paying job and felt secure in covering any additional mortgage costs. Over the next decade, his portfolio appreciated handsomely. Whenever he received dividends, he reinvested them, compounding his returns. By the time he did a mid-career check-in, Ryan saw that his original $40,000 had nearly doubled. Meanwhile, he still enjoyed the comfort of living in his primary home, which continued to grow in value as well. Just remember that with market investments, it is wise to play the long game. If you will need that money soon or cannot afford fluctuations, you might want a more stable strategy. Each person's tolerance for risk is different, so think carefully about whether this approach lines up with your goals. Next up, we will zoom out and see how these different strategies compare. Picture your finances as a seesaw. If one side fails, the other side can keep you afloat, preventing a total crash. That is essentially diversification in action. Instead of throwing every dollar of your equity into a single venture, you spread it across multiple investments. This approach can be especially powerful if you are unlocking large amounts of home equity. Meet Shane, who had $150,000 in home equity. He put $50,000 into paying down his credit cards and personal loans. He allocated another $50,000 as a down payment on a small duplex, then placed the final $50,000 in an index fund. By diversifying, Shane created 3 separate avenues for growth. If the rental market goes soft, he still has his investments in the stock market. If the stock market goes through a rough patch, at least his high-interest debt is gone and his monthly expenses are lower. Diversification is not a guarantee that you will come out ahead, but it spreads risk more evenly. One negative event will not torpedo your entire plan. It is a strategy used by some of the most successful investors in the world, and there is no reason the average American cannot do the same. Of course, not everyone has that much equity to divide, but the principle remains. Do not place all your bets on a single roll of the dice. Second, shop around for the right financial product. You could go for a home equity loan if you prefer a lump sum at a fixed rate. A HELOC might be better if you want flexibility, kind of like a credit card backed by your home. Alternatively, a cash-out refinance might help you secure a different interest rate on your primary mortgage. Each comes with its own fees, interest rates, and terms, so compare thoroughly. Third, outline a solid plan for the funds. Write down your goal, how much money it will require, and how you plan to repay the new loan or line of credit. The biggest pitfall is using borrowed money without a roadmap, leading to impulsive purchases or scattered attempts at investing. Finally, think about your exit strategy. If you use the funds to start a business, when do you expect it to turn profitable? If you are investing in real estate, do you have a timeline for selling or refinancing? If you are entering the stock market, are you prepared for a long haul? This clarity helps keep your eyes on the prize and steers you away from emotional decision-making when markets fluctuate. You began this video curious about how much equity the typical American really has in their home, and whether tapping into that equity could be a game changer for your path to wealth. We have seen that many homeowners have more than $170,000 locked up in their houses, a sum that can shift your financial picture, if deployed wisely. Whether you plan to consolidate high-interest debt, purchase an investment property, or expand your portfolio in the stock market, the potential is enormous, but only if you balance that risk with a smart plan. Here is your challenge. Take a concrete step. Do the math on your own home, check how much equity you have, and ask yourself, am I content letting this grow passively, or do I see an opportunity to speed up my financial goals? Do not act impulsively. Gather data, compare options, and check your risk tolerance. Once you have a well-thought-out plan, tapping that equity can move you closer to the version of life you have always envisioned, whether that is a debt-free lifestyle, multiple streams of income, or early retirement. If this video gave you some fresh ideas, go ahead and hit the like button. Do not forget to subscribe if you want more insights on using everyday finances to achieve extraordinary goals. And let me know in the comments, how would you use your home equity to build wealth? If you have already done it, share your experience so we can learn from each other. Thank you for watching. Keep chasing your dream of financial freedom, and remember, your home might be more than a place to live. It could be the key to your next big breakthrough.